beautiful friends, it's Amanda here, and today we're talking about the Spring 2019 collection from ColourPop Cosmetics. I decided to make two separate videos about this collection. So this video is going to be all about the eye products. There are 6 Jelly Much shadows and a pressed powder palette. The other video is about the Super Shock cheek products. There are 6 blushes as well as 6 Luxe lipsticks. This way it'll be a little bit easier for you to find the exact products that you're most interested in more information about. The spring collection launches on the ColourPop Cosmetics website on Thursday, March 14th. I'm going to try my very best to get both videos up before the products actually go live for sale on the site. That way you can see everything, you can see the swatches and the demos, and hopefully that will help you decide which things are going to work the best for you. Let's jump right into it and talk about the Jelly Much eyeshadows first. There are 6 new shades of the Jelly Much eyeshadows and they're retail priced at $8 a piece. These Jelly Much shadows do have special packaging on the actual product itself. Just like the Jelly Much shadows that came out in their holiday collection, these do have little screw tops that correspond to the shade inside instead of their regular permanent packaging, which is just a white cap with no clear window on top. So these Spring Jelly Much shadows are the exact same size and shape as the Super Shock shadows. These do come with a little stopper. I like that there's a little tab here that makes it easy to remove the stopper. That's what they look like up close. These aren't the jiggliest jelly products. These do have a little bit more of a cream, like substantial feel to them. That's probably why I like these so much more than other cream eyeshadows. I'm typically not a big fan of liquid eyeshadows. For example, I don't really like the ColourPop Supernova shadows, but ever since the Jelly Much shadows that came out with the holiday collection came into my life, I have been so hooked on these Jelly Much shadows. They're just the right texture. I find these to be so much easier to work with than any other liquid or jelly type of eyeshadow product. I love every single one of these shades that they released. I'm gonna go ahead and show you some swatches, just some quick finger swatches on my arm so that you can see all 6 of these shades together. So happy to see more of these. I love the special packaging. These are so fun and metallic, really easy to use. Just tap right onto the lid and no problems for me there. I don't have a demo using these today, but if you're interested in seeing a more in-depth video about how I use the Jelly Much shadows, leave a comment, let me know, and maybe we can make that happen in the future. Now, let's talk about this palette. There's been a lot of buzz about this palette ever since photos and information started trickling out about it. This is the Sweet Talk Pressed Powder Palette. Kind of misleading because these are not all pressed powders. ColourPop is bringing us not 1 but 2 new formulas in their eyeshadow palette format. There is a Super Shock shadow in here as well as 2 pressed glitters. This is a 12 pan eyeshadow palette and it will be retail priced at $18. Exact same size and shape as the regular 12 pan palettes. This is a heavy duty cardboard and it does have a magnetic closure. And on this particular palette, the magnetic closure is like super strong compared to the other ColourPop palettes that I have. And I think that's because there are these new formulas in here. They really don't want that Super Shock shadow to dry out, and it makes an especially satisfying sound. The outer packaging is this cool, like edgy meets girly floral. The colors on the packaging definitely correspond to the shades inside the palette. It's kind of cool how this girl looks sort of blindfolded, but then her eyes are on the back. I think it's cool. Personally, I really like this packaging. The only thing I would change, I would like to see the girl be a little bit less like perfect. She's super duper beautiful, but I would love to see like a little bit of like a, you know, an interesting, like an ugly pretty kind of person. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't mean that to sound insulting. I would love to see this girl as just a little bit more quirky or like weirdly beautiful, but she is super beautiful. There's no denying she looks like a mannequin, but that is my completely irrelevant thoughts on the packaging. This is called the Sweet Talk palette. When you open it up in here, there's just a little note that says you're pretty. I really love that. I think that's so cute. Love the flowers. There is a very shiny hollow background for all the shadow pans, which I love in person. I don't love filming with it because it throws off my camera. But inside here, I don't know if you can tell, the shade names are printed next to the pans. There are 7 matte shadows in here, and those are all their regular pressed powder formula. Then we have 2 shimmer shades that are also their regular eyeshadow formula. We have this very glittery shadow. This is the Super Shock shadow. And then we have 2 pressed glitters. I'm gonna be doing my swatches just like I usually do. I'll be swatching on the back of my hand with no primer. I will be doing both finger and brush swatches with the finger swatches on top and the brush swatches below. The only exception is for these 3 new formulas, the Super Shock shadow and the 2 pressed glitters. I'm not gonna do a brush swatch. Those aren't really gonna work with a brush. My recommendation is just to apply them with the finger. I would never apply them with a brush, so I'm not gonna swatch them with a brush. So you will just see finger swatches for those 3 shades, but the other 9 shadows I will definitely do brush swatches for. I will be using my e.l.f. flat eyeshadow brush, and I'll clean my brush off in between each shade using my Verimona color switch. Here's the top row of the palette. First up is a pale peachy pink matte shade. This one's called Catch Me. Next up we have our Super Shock shadow. Again, this is just a finger swipe. This is a really pretty, super glittery champagne shade called Side to Side. Next up, one of my favorite shades in this palette, probably my favorite shade in the whole palette. This is a golden coral shifting metallic shade. It's called Garden Date. It's so beautiful. And lastly, an orangey tan matte shade called Work It. Ooh, all right, this is the middle row of the palette. As you can see, we have the 2 pressed glitters, just finger swatched here. They look so beautiful swatched out in the pan. Definitely does not do these justice. And these do not have a glitter glue or primer or anything. This is just applied onto my skin with my finger. This one is Prima Drama. Then we have a corally orange matte shade. This one is Meadow. This glitter has like finer particles. It's a gold shade and it's called Early Mornin'. And then a slightly lighter peachy coral matte shade. This one's called Dream Maker. These 2 looking real similar to me. This is the bottom row of the palette. We're seeing 3 matte shades and 1 shimmer. First up, we have a brick red matte shade. This one's called ICYMI. This gold shimmer is called Melody. Very medium, warmish brown called West Side. And lastly, a deeper kind of plummy red brown matte. This one's called Feel Free. Now that you've seen the palette swatched, let's jump into a quick eyeshadow tutorial using the Sweet Talk palette to get the eye look that I'm wearing today, and then I'll wrap up all my mini thoughts at the end. I'm starting off by priming my eyes the same way I always do with my favorite eye base. It's the MAC Paint Pot in the shade Painterly. Then I'm going to set my eye base using this pale peachy matte shade called Catch Me from the Sweet Talk palette. Next, for my transition shade, I'm going to start with Work It. This is a pale brownish orange type of shade. Just sweeping that into the crease really loosely. I am going to be building up a lot of shades here, so I'm not being too precise with this one. I'm also going to use the very same shade Work It on my lower lash line, just smoking that out again really sloppily with a small flat brush. Next, I'm taking Meadow. I want to start bringing this coral color into the look, so I'm blending Meadow right over top of that Work It shade just to get a really blown out crease. Now I'm going to start to build up some depth on the outer part of my eye, so I'm using ICYMI on a flat brush, and I'm just sort of stamping that onto the very outer part of my eye and then gently blending into the crease. Then I took my absolute favorite shade from the palette, Garden Date, and applied that all over my eyelid using my finger. This shadow is so soft to the touch and so metallic. I am hooked on it. Next, I'm using the Super Shock shadow, and using my pinky finger, I'm taking this one called Side to Side and building that around the inner part of my eye and a bit onto my lid. Then I wanted to try out the glitter. I just wanted to test all these different formulas. So I took a little bit of Early Morning with no glitter glue and just tapped that right onto the center of my eye. Lastly, I took Feel Free, that dark matte shade, and I used that as a faux liner on the upper lashes, curled my eyelashes, and added some of my CoverGirl Exhibitionist mascara. That's the finished look. It is so beautiful. I love this coral, really shiny look. It's very spring. It feels very fresh and vibrant. Those of you who have watched my channel, have watched a lot of my ColourPop reviews, those of you who kind of know Makeup Just for Fun, you're gonna be surprised that there are a lot of things I actually don't like about this palette. Now, there are things that I do like about it. I have very mixed feelings towards this palette. First of all, the color scheme I actually really like. I think it makes sense with Living Coral being the Pantone color of the year. It's very springtime, it's very lively and fresh, and this palette definitely coordinates well with the other products in this line. So the blushes and the lipsticks in particular, these shades are all very cohesive, and I like the overall theme. Personally, I feel like some of these shades are just a little bit too similar. These two matte shades on the middle row in particular are just really looking the same on the eye once they're swatched, once they're applied. I would have loved to see, instead of both of these coral shades, I think a yellow really would have been great in this palette. They sort of relied on these new formulas in the palette format to be the wow factor, and the other shades are sort of the supporting cast. I just wish that there's a little bit more oomph in these shades. I would have loved to see two yellows or an even more like saturated orange, kind of like we're seeing here in the palette packaging. There's a little bit of lilac, there's some lime green. I would have liked to see a little nod to that in these shades. I don't dislike this color scheme at all. I think it's beautiful. I just wish there was a little bit more of something to punch it up other than these pressed glitters. Now, I might just be saying that because personally, I'm not like a huge pressed glitter, particularly in palettes, fan. You saw from the swatches, these are very beautiful pressed glitters. That's just not really my personal preference, and you know, at the end of the videos when I give my opinion, so that's all this is. I think I would have liked to see something like this more in the holiday palette than in the spring palette. However, I love that there's a Super Shock shadow in here. If you didn't already know this, I absolutely am obsessed with Super Shock shadows. Personally, I wish that instead of these two pressed glitters, we had gotten 3 Super Shock shadows. You know, that's just my personal preference. I would love to see more Super Shock, but I know that there are a lot of people out there who love glitter, and I definitely commend ColourPop for doing something different, for switching up the formulas. So I think that's really cool. I love Side to Side. I really love this shade Garden Date. That's my favorite shade in the whole palette. And you know, I do think the glitters are really pretty. They're just not my thing. So all in all, I like the palette. It's not my all-time favorite, but I do think it's pretty. I like the packaging. I like the color scheme. It's good. It's just not like the top #1 palette for me. However, I love the Jelly Much shadows. I'm so surprised even to hear myself say that I prefer the Jelly Much shades over the palette in this collection. I was trying to narrow down my favorites from these 6 Jelly Much shades because I usually like to tell you my favorite shades out of the lineup. I can't pick them. I love all of these Jelly Much shadows so much. I don't think you're gonna go wrong with any of these shades. If these are catching your eye, you will not be disappointed. They are so super beautiful. I know I already raved about them when I was showing them beforehand, but I can't say enough good things. To sum it all up, palette is good, Jelly Much are great. Now's the time when I want to hear what you think about these products. Which pieces are catching your eye from this collection? Leave a comment, let us know what you think. Make sure you go and check out the other video where I swatched all of the spring blushes and lipsticks. You don't want to miss out on those pieces either. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye. They're just, I'm so, I don't have words. I'm just excited. Powder palette on a roll. Seriously on a roll today. Let's swatch it out. Okay. What is ICYMI? Used on social media when posting something that is not new. Oh, in case you missed it. Did you miss it? See, this is how you know, because I work on social media. So you know I'm old because I'm like, what is those kids talking about? It's fine. Bye. It's fine. Fellow old people, you can relate. And young people, this is your future. Good luck. Okay, editing Amanda, let it be known you're skipping around on the swatches so that you do the glitters last. So that you don't have glitters all up in all the other swatches. You know why you're doing that? Because you're a genius. That's why. Okay, so you're literally talking to yourself. It's gotten bad. Pray for me that I can remove this glitter. Now, my life will be glittery forever. There will be glitter on me until I die. That actually doesn't sound that bad. Really? I love I mean, the glitter looks good on my eyes. It's just, it's not my preferred thing. Like, if you love glitter, you go. You just go, you little glitter princess. I like that they did something different. It's just like, not, yeah, you know, nope. You don't know because that didn't make any sense. Me in a nutshell. Okay, I gotta go edit these videos so I can get them up in time for you. Okay, thank you. Bye-bye, bye-bye now. Bye-bye.